complete pervert.
We are not Christian. Christianity is a Jewish religion.
Christianity is, as you know, an immigrant religion.
As you know, some people try to justify mass immigration to Europe. Are the ones causing the mass immigration.
All their attempts to implement the multicultural society is an active attempt to destroy Europe.
And I'm not a white supremacist. Of course, it's absolute bullshit. Am I a white supremacist?
Yes.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of The Descent of Man-osphere, the series where I take you through the ways in which the Man-osphere and its utterly disgusting, reprehensible, douchebag inhabitants are trying to reverse human evolution and drag us all back into the fucking sea. And today we are dealing with a Norwegian nationalist who lives in France. Quelle surprise. Yes, it's Varg Vikernes. Now, Varg Vikernes is many things. So many things I've had to write them down because there's no way I can remember the entire list off the top of my fucking head. So let's have a look. He is a murderer, yes, trust me, we will be returning to that topic in just a second. He is a serial arsonist, again it will be mentioned. He is an ethno-nationalist, trad-conservationalist, racialist, neo-Volkish race realist, primitivist, permaculturalist, anti-urbanisationist, anti-Christian pagan odalist, tabletop gaming entrepreneur, YouTuber, where he posts under the name Thulian Perspective. He is an author, a father of 7 children, a teetotaler, a race-hate criminal, prison escapee, carjacker, and black metal musician. Now, I think we can all agree that is quite a resume. Now, before we get into this one, just a quick heads up, we are going to be talking about a murder, so, you know, if that's a bit too much for you, click away now, that's fine. And also, for anyone remaining, this one isn't going to be a particularly funny one. Like, there will hopefully be a few moments of levity mixed in there, but they will be few and far between, so, you know. Where do we even start with this one? Well, obviously we start with the fucking murder. I mean, this guy killed a person, for fuck's sake. And for this little tale, we have to go back to the late 1980s, when a young Varg Vikernes started out in the burgeoning black metal scene in Norway, with his one-man band, Burzum, or as he pronounced it, Burzum. But no other Norwegian pronounces it that way, so I think that's just him being a pretentious prick. Anyways, as part of that scene, he met and befriended a man by the name of Øystein Arseth, whose stage name was Euronymous, who was the lead singer of fellow black metalers Mayhem. And over the course of the next few years, both Mayhem and Burzum created some very good and extremely influential music in a vibrant metal culture which developed in Norway at the time. Anyways, also over the subsequent years, Varg was involved in the arson of at least 4 Christian churches, for which he was later convicted. And because of the negative press that the church burnings brought to the black metal scene and a number of other personal issues, the relationship between he and Arseth soured to the point where Vikernes claimed Arseth was planning to kill him, a plan for which there doesn't actually appear to be any evidence, but whatever. And this situation came to a head on the night of August the 10th, 1993, when Vikernes drove to Oslo with a friend called Blackthorn, and Vikernes killed Arseth by stabbing him to death, in an act that he described as self-defence. But there are a number of issues with this self-defence story here. Firstly, Blackthorn, the only other person present at the killing, testified against Vikernes at the trial. Also, if it was just self-defence, why did Varg flee the scene immediately, drive away from the crime, burn his blood-soaked clothes and attempt to concoct a false alibi for himself? Also, if it was self-defence, why did he stab him 23 separate times? A self-defence situation does not involve 2 stabs to the head, 5 to the neck, and 16 to the back, unless you're defending yourself against the fucking Hulk or something. Look, Varg, you are a fucking murderer. It would be good if you could at least accept that, but you don't, because you have the mind of a pathetic, petulant little child. Yes, that's right, Varg still refuses to accept responsibility for the murder and for the church burning. But anyways, after the murder, he was tried and convicted of both the murder and the 4 church burnings, and was sentenced to the maximum of 21 years. And at the moment of his conviction, he gave this sickening smile.
Varg Vikernes, født 11.2.73, dømmes til en straff av fengsel I 21 år.
Vikernes ble dømt for overlagt drap. I tillegg ble han dømt for å ha tent på Holmenkollen kapell I Oslo, Skjold kirke I Rogaland, Åsane kirke I Bergen, og for forsøk på ildspåsettelse av Storetveit kirkes klokketårn I Bergen.
Yes, he really is a fucking monster. But anyways, he would go on to serve 15 years. Now, Norway, look, sort that fucking shit out, yeah? Because not only did he kill a guy and burn down 4 buildings, but during his term of imprisonment, he escaped from prison, went on the run, held up a family at gunpoint in order to jack their car and attempt to escape. He was later tracked down and found to be in possession of a knife, a gas mask and camouflage clothing. And later still, a handgun and automatic rifle were found in a cabin where Vikernes had hidden during his escape attempt. And with all of that, he served just 15 years in prison, being released on parole in 2009. 3 months to the day after what would have been Øystein Aarseth's 41st birthday. I'm sorry, that is not a fitting punishment. He did all of that evil shit and was released at the age of 36. Absolutely disgusting. Anyways, let's move on to talk about his absolutely horrific politics, shall we? And it is a rare situation where you get to say, let's move on to talk about some Nazi shit, and that's a step up in the lightness of the conversation, but you know, here we are. Because yes, Varg Vikernes is, or at least was, a point we will return to in just a moment, a disgusting Nazi piece of garbage.
Stockpile weapons to munitions to prepare for war, because we not only suspected there might be a Third World War. We hoped that there would be a Third World War.
Does it bother you at all that you've killed someone? I mean, not in a sense of it being like self-defense or whatever, but just...
No, not at all. I've killed ants when I was a kid, like killed bees, mosquitoes, subhumans, communist, punk, same category. National Socialism and paganism in Norway and in any other European country, especially Northern Europe, can be lit like this because it's our archetypes, it's our nature, it's a natural philosophy of life, it's our philosophy of life.
What a massive pile of shit! But anyways, he now claims he is no longer an ultra-nationalist, but instead that he is an odalist, which is a kind of blood and soil nationalist. So really, no fucking different to being a Nazi then, really, Varg, other than replacing Christianity with a weird mishmash of old Norse legends and stuff, but you're still basically a fucking Nazi. But he certainly claims not to be a Nazi anymore, saying upon his release from prison that he was a changed man, that he'd moved past all of that. But, Varg, that's fucking bullshit.
There's a third group here. You have the Christians, you have the Muslims, and there is a third group here who benefits greatly from having the Christians and the Muslims fighting each other. They are also behind the mass immigration to Europe. They're behind our governments. They're behind our banking system.
Sub-Saharan Africans, they are more like we were before.
For hundreds and hundreds of years, we let the filth among us reproduce. Slaves, serfs, the lowest human trash. We let them reproduce.
Note that civilization requires slavery.
And these poor Nepalese parents feel like they have no choice, so they send their kids to this free, generous Christian school, whose sole purpose is to destroy the Nepalese culture and replace it with their Jewish culture. Who's protecting our authorities? Who is enabling the authorities to genocide us?
All their attempts to implement the multicultural society is an active attempt to destroy Europe.
And again, what a massive piece of fucking shit he is. And in addition to all of that post-prison Nazi guff, also in 2014, having moved from Norway to France, he was convicted of inciting racial hatred for an anti-Semitic and Islamophobic rant he posted on his website. And he was sentenced to 6 months of probation and fined €8,000, which is around £6,800 or $9,050. So yeah, he claims to have changed post-imprisonment, but he really hasn't, to be honest. He's just older and more boring. And on that note of him still being a Nazi but just being more old and boring, let's take a look at one of his more recent videos about hijab and niqab in Europe, which is just an absolute fucking riot of boring old Nazi shite. Take it away, you boring old Nazi prick.
So-called anti-immigration parties all over Europe are very much against the use of hijab and niqab and so forth for Muslims. Why? Let's find out. As you probably know, covering your hair when you're a married woman is not a Muslim thing. It's we've done this in Europe for ages. We only stopped doing it recently here in Western Europe, and I'm pretty sure they actually still do it, you know, for old people in Eastern Europe. And we did here in Western Europe as well for, you know, a couple of decades ago.
He actually starts off by making a good point here, albeit with a crazy allusion to the fact that he doesn't think that the anti-immigration parties are actually anti-immigration because they're not racist enough for him, hence the so-called anti-immigration parties thing, but whatever, right? Yeah, the practice of women covering their hair in order to show modesty or whatever is not an alien concept or practice to Europe. In fact, in parts of Europe it's still pretty much commonplace practice to this day. And by the way, I'm not saying that this is a good thing, okay? It's patriarchal as fuck and beyond problematic. I'm just pointing out that the dickheads who say that this is some foreign alien concept that Islam was brought to Europe are talking fucking shit. So yeah, Varg starts off with a good point, but the problem with Varg is that it's only a matter of time before the Nazi craziness bubbles to the surface.
I'm going to share with you an observation that I have made in this context. You see, if I am a European woman going at a disco, you know, dancing, and I see a guy in a dress and with some Arab head cover, I'm gonna think that the guy is a Muslim. If I am a European woman dancing, and I see a guy dressed like a European, but it's kind of dark, I'm gonna think that, you know, maybe he's a Greek, or maybe he's an Italian or a Portuguese guy. If you take the hijab off the Muslim woman, if you take the niqab off, if you take the, you know, the robes off the Arab man and remove the Arab headdress, nobody will be able to tell the difference anymore.
Well, there are various points here. Firstly, Varg is talking about headdresses worn by Muslim women, so there's no necessity for him to bring in Muslim men into the conversation whatsoever, unless you understand that the real reason that Varg is talking about this is because he's talking about mixed race breeding. And more specifically, the tried and tested Nazi bullshit of the Muslims/Jews/insert whatever fucking group here are coming to steal our women. Yeah, like I say, he's a crazy Nazi bastard. Secondly, notice the subtle and sly way in which he transfers the word Muslim for the word Arab, even though these things are not synonymous, Varg. Because not all Muslims are Arabs, and not all Arabs are Muslim. Arabs make up about 20% of the total population of Muslims on the earth, which is significantly less than the 30% that live in the Indian subcontinent alone. And the largest Muslim country in the world by population is Indonesia, where 87.2% of the population are Muslims, and very, 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 very few are Arabs. So you're just an ignorant twat, Varg. Varg then puts in this weird little visual quiz comprising of pictures of swarthy looking gents, some of whom are Arabs, some of which are Southern European, and he doesn't seem to realise how this totally destroys his ethno-nationalist notions of white Europe, because obviously Europe isn't fully white and never was, Varg, you fucking prick.
This is probably a bit uncomfortable for many, but that's how it is, really. Many people in Western, Northern, Central and Eastern Europe can't really tell the difference between, you know, the average Greek guy and the average Arab. The only thing that enables them to see the difference is their clothing.
That's the only thing, is it, Varg? That's the only difference, right? There are no cultural differences, no dietary differences, no differences of accent, no lifestyle differences, nothing, right? Well, if that's the case, Varg, why do you have a problem with immigration from the Arab world at all? If these people slip so unnoticeably into Europe that the only differentiating factor is a piece of cloth, then surely they're already model European citizens. In fact, why not let them all come in here and we can kick out criminal scumbags from our continent? You know, criminal scumbags, Varg. Like you.
So why are these so-called anti-immigration parties so eager to, make the Muslims look like Europeans, dress like Europeans, like Southern Europeans? The only thing they will achieve by this is that there will be an increase in, interracial marriages, in multicultural marriages.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah, of course, Varg, that must be it. I mean, it couldn't possibly have anything to do with these parties picking on Muslims as an easy target in order to garner votes from racist scumbags. No, it must be because they want to increase the number of interracial marriages. Varg, you really are a fucking lunatic.
Hitler's Germany, they did the exact opposite. They didn't want their population to marry Jews.
Orange juice?
So they put a David star on every Jew because they wanted all the Germans to be able to identify the Jews and know that, okay, don't marry him, don't make a business transaction with him, don't deal with him whatsoever, because they were racist, right? They were anti-Semites.
Hang on a minute, whoa. Why did you say it like that? I mean, surely the Nazis were anti-Semites. I mean, surely we can all agree that the actual literal fucking Nazis were anti-Semitic. Like, even if you think that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were super fucking awesome or whatever, surely you would have to say, yeah, they were anti-Semitic. At least in part because you would think that anti-Semitism was a good thing, but whatever, right? So, Varg, that means that you are less honest than your average Nazi piece of shit, which is almost impressive, I guess.
So they put a David star on every Jew because they wanted all the Germans to be able to identify the Jews and know that, okay, don't marry him, don't make a business transaction with him, don't deal with him whatsoever, because they were racist, right? They were anti-Semites. And why are the anti-immigration parties doing the opposite today?
Varg, are you seriously asking us now why political parties in 2019 are not advocating for the policies of Adolf Hitler? I mean, seriously, Varg, are you fucking real? Or am I dreaming this? Did I get a bad batch of shrooms again or something? I mean, you are fucking mental. Look, Varg Vikernes, I cannot believe I'm going to have to explain this to you, but here we go. Varg, Adolf Hitler was a genocidal fucking madman. And he sparked the single most destructive war in the history of the world, leaving much of Europe in fucking ruins. You know, Europe, that continent you claim to love so much. So considering that that's Adolf Hitler's legacy, if you're still wondering why political parties in the current day aren't advocating for the exact same policies as Adolf Hitler, well, you are just too far fucking gone. And also, fuck you, you Nazi shitbag.
Why are the anti-immigration parties doing the opposite today? I think there's something fishy going on here.
Something fishy, and I'm feeding Rory Cat's fish. Delightful.
Because if they were anti-immigration, why are they so eager to integrate the immigrants? Why are they so eager to remove all identification marks on them, that we can identify them as immigrants? They don't want that, apparently. Why?
Oh my god, Varg, you're such a reactionary twat that you're now forcing me to have to defend anti-immigration parties who I fucking despise. Look, you dickhead, most anti-immigration parties don't hate all immigrants and all potential immigrants. And that has absolutely nothing to do with them trying to encourage the white race to breed with Muslims or Jews or whatever. And whilst that might be upsetting to your absurd dreams of a Fourth Reich, you can go fuck yourself, you Nazi piece of shit.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just asking the question. Why are supposedly anti-immigration parties so eager to remove what enables us to identify the immigrants as immigrants?
Yeah, he's totally not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. He just wants political parties in 2019 to advocate for the policies of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. I mean, what's the big deal, famalama ding-dongs?
Why are they so eager to take measures so that the chance for an interracial couple, an interracial marriage, increases?
Well, yeah, it must be down to George Soros, peace be upon him.
That they are no longer identifiable from, What do you think?
I think you're a Nazi piece of garbage. Now, with that unpleasantness out of the way, hopefully the next segment will be a little bit more light-hearted. Oh, for fuck's sake. Now it's time for this. Yes, it's the inevitable bit about rape. This episode, man. Jesus Christ. And talking of old Jesus of Nazareth, this bit is actually Christianity related. Because for Varg's inevitable bit about rape, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of a theme which runs throughout much of his fucking god-awful work. See what I did? God-awful work. Which is that he hates Christianity, and I mean really fucking detests Christianity. And that's based on the fact that Christianity was ruthless and brutal towards trying to stamp out Norse, pagan, Viking religions and tribes, and forcing them to Christianise, which is an absolutely justified anger, because the persecution exacted by the Christians during the Northern Crusades and against generally the pagan peoples of Northern Europe was pretty fucking disgusting. So I understand that completely, but Varg takes it to look an absolutely ludicrous extreme where everything to do with Christianity is bad and everything to do with paganism is good, and obviously it's never as simple as that. And in line with that, in the following clip, it's not so much what he says that's shitty, but what he conveniently chooses to leave out.
When we take a look at the history of the Vikings, we always encounter the claim that they were raiders and rapists. But if you go to the historical sources, you will find that not a single contemporary historical source claims that the Vikings raped anybody. In fact, you have to wait about 100 or even 200 years to find any sources claiming that the Vikings raped anybody.
Now what Varg says there is largely true. When the Vikings invaded non-Viking lands, it seems that rape wasn't a massive part of their more general brutality to the local populace, although let us not pretend that they didn't also massacre and pillage on a grand scale now, Varg, for fuck's sake. But more importantly, and pertinently to this segment, it's what Varg omits about precisely why they didn't rape. Firstly, it seems that they wish to preserve their bloodlines, whatever the fuck that even really means, by not impregnating non-Norse women, and that can be seen by how infrequent intermarriages took place. But here's the kicker. The reason they were so averse to rape within their own tribes was because it was an insult to the men. That's right, the bodily autonomy of the women didn't even factor into things. The women were merely property of the men, and so to rape a woman was to attack the men. It was an affront to the males of the tribe. The women literally did not matter as individual creatures. So Varg, you can fuck off with that little lie about the oh-so-noble, woman-friendly Norse adventurers, because that's a load of old shit, you lying little prick. Anyways, I'm wrapping this shit up now. Firstly, the outro compilation, where I put some music underneath some, images or footage or whatever. Well, an editorial decision I've made for certainly this episode and probably most episodes in the future, instead of actually featuring the person for whom the video is profiling, I'm going to be using something else, just something better, because frankly, I don't think these people need any more exposure. So instead of using images of Varg, the Norwegian Nazi piece of shit, I'm going to be using images of people I think should be shown, Norwegian anti-Nazis, specifically heroes of the Norwegian Resistance during the Second World War. So I'm going to be showing images of those people and, in some very small way there, honouring them. And linked below is more information about the Norwegian Resistance if you want to go and read about that. It's actually fucking fascinating. And in terms of Varg himself, how do I wrap this up? Basically, I think we've all seen he's still a Nazi prick, just a more boring old Nazi prick than the young, slightly less boring but still pretty fucking boring Nazi prick that he used to be. And what exemplifies that more than anything was that his main concern ahead of the recently released Lords of Chaos film, which, by the way, Lords of Chaos was a film based on the book that was written about the black metal scene in Norway during the late 80s and early 90s, of which Varg was obviously one of the central figures. And Varg's main point of anger ahead of the film's release was the fact that the guy who was cast to play him in the film was Jewish. And can I just quickly applaud the producers of that film for that fantastic piece of trolling. Well played. You got that boring old Nazi prick good. So yeah, with all of that said, done, and out of the way, there is just one thing left for me to say. Varg Vikernes, go fuck yourself.